The story begins in a quiet corner of Los Angeles where cameras always seem to follow every step of famous people. Yet, in that busy city, Keanu Reeves lived in his own way, far from the rush of celebrity life. He was known across the world for his movies, but those who had met him in person often spoke of something far more important than his acting. They spoke of his kindness, his soft words, and his deep respect for everyone. Ana de Armas, the rising star from Cuba, had also begun to shine in Hollywood. People loved her smile, her energy, and her pure honesty in interviews. It was not long before their paths crossed, but what followed was not just a professional meeting. It was a journey that touched hearts in unexpected ways. The first time Keanu and Ana met was during a table read for a film. It was a simple room with a long table, scripts scattered, and nervous laughter filling the air. Most actors at such events tried to impress others, but Keanu walked in quietly, nodded politely, and greeted the crew as if each of them mattered equally. Ana, sitting near the end of the table, noticed how he stopped to shake the hand of even the young assistant who was arranging coffee cups. It was a small act, but it carried a weight that made the room pause. Ana's eyes followed him, not as a starstruck fan, but as someone who understood respect. As the reading began, something strange happened. Ana stumbled over a line. It was not a big mistake, yet some people laughed lightly, the kind of laughter that can sting. For a second, her confidence dropped, her hands shook, and she looked down at the script. In that silence, Keanu leaned forward, smiled softly, and repeated the same line as if it were part of a joke between them. His tone was light, gentle, and kind. The room laughed again, but this time it was warm, not sharp. Ana raised her eyes and saw him looking at her with quiet reassurance. It was not about saving her from embarrassment. It was about reminding her that mistakes do not define worth. After the session, while most actors rushed to their cars, Keanu stayed behind to help an older crew member carry boxes of equipment to a van. Ana stood at a distance, watching. She was struck not by his fame, but by his humility. In Hollywood, where pride and status often ruled, this was rare. Curiosity grew in her heart. She wanted to know why he lived this way, why he carried himself so gently when the world expected him to shine with arrogance. The days that followed brought more rehearsals. Keanu and Ana began to talk, not about glamour or scripts, but about simple things. He asked her about her family, her childhood in Cuba, her struggles when she first arrived in America. She spoke with emotion, recalling days when she barely had money, when loneliness pressed on her shoulders, and when she questioned if she belonged in this industry. Keanu listened with deep focus, never interrupting, never trying to turn the story toward himself. When she finished, he only said, "You are here because you fought for it, and that means you belong." Those words stayed with Ana. They were not empty compliments. They were spoken with the weight of someone who had lived through his own storms. What she did not know yet was that Keanu's past carried scars too, losses, grief, and years of quiet battles that shaped his heart into what it was. Their connection grew not through fame, but through shared understanding of pain and resilience. But even as their friendship strengthened, whispers began in the background. Hollywood was never silent, and people always talked. Some questioned why Keanu, an established legend, was spending so much time with Ana. Others hinted at rivalry or personal motives. These whispers reached Ana one afternoon, when a reporter asked her directly if she thought Keanu was mentoring her out of pity. The words hit her hard. Pity was the last thing she wanted from anyone, especially from someone she admired. That night, she sat in her apartment, her heart heavy with doubt. Yet the next day, when she arrived on set, Keanu greeted her with the same calm smile. He noticed the sadness in her eyes but did not push her to explain. Instead, during a break, he invited her to sit outside under a tree near the studio lot. They shared sandwiches in silence. Finally, he said, People will always talk, but their words are not the truth. What matters is how we see each other, and I see strength in you, not weakness." Ana felt tears press against her eyes. It was not just the words. It was the way he looked at her, steady and kind, without judgment. For the first time in weeks, she felt safe. But safety does not last long in a world built on lights and cameras. Soon, an unexpected event tested their bond even more. One evening, while leaving the studio, Ana faced a group of paparazzi who shouted rude comments to get a reaction from her. One of them mocked her accent, another laughed about her early mistakes. She froze, unsure how to respond. Keanu, walking a few steps behind, noticed everything. Instead of confronting the photographers, with anger, he stepped beside Ana, placed his jacket gently over her shoulders, and guided her to his car without a word. The moment was caught on cameras, but it told a different story. It showed not scandal or gossip, but a rare act of quiet protection. Later that night, social media buzzed with the pictures. Fans across the world spoke not about the insults, but about the way Keanu treated Ana, with respect as an equal, as a friend. For Ana, the incident changed something inside her. She realized that kindness could be louder than cruelty, and humility could silence arrogance. The journey of Keanu and Ana was just beginning. The challenges of Hollywood, the weight of public eyes, and the struggles within themselves would soon test them in ways neither expected. But one thing was already clear. Together, their bond carried a message the world needed to hear. Respect and kindness can create light even in the darkest corners. The next morning, Ana woke up to a flood of messages on her phone. Friends, colleagues, and even strangers had sent her screenshots of the photos with Keanu. Headlines praised his gentle act, while fans from different parts of the world wrote comments about how heartwarming it was to see kindness in Hollywood. But among those messages, there were also bitter words. Some accused her of using Keanu's reputation to gain sympathy, while others suggested their friendship was just for publicity. Those harsh voices were louder than the ones praising her, and for a while she could not shake them off. Ana sat by her window staring at the city outside. She thought about her early days in Cuba, the dusty streets, the long evenings when she dreamed of being an actress. She had left behind so much to come to America, to chase a dream that often felt too heavy to hold. Now, even when she was finally working in films, the weight of judgment pressed harder than she expected. She whispered to herself, "Is it always going to be like this?" Later that day, on set, Keanu noticed the tiredness in her face. He quietly walked over with 2 cups of tea. He did not ask any questions. He simply handed her the cup and sat beside her. Silence stretched between them, but it was a comforting silence. Finally, Ana said softly, "Sometimes it feels like the world wants me to fail." Keanu looked at her for a long moment and then said, "The world will always test you, but it cannot take away what you truly are. You are not here by accident. You fought to be here. Don't let strangers write your story." Those words felt like an anchor to her heart, but what happened next pushed their bond even deeper. One evening, the cast and crew were invited to a private dinner at a luxury hotel to celebrate the halfway mark of the film. The ballroom was filled with bright lights, laughter, and the constant sound of clinking glasses. People dressed in elegant clothes moved around, smiling wide but speaking with words sharpened by pride. Ana arrived in a simple but graceful dress. She looked beautiful, yet her nervousness made her steps careful. She was still learning to feel comfortable in such gatherings. As she entered, a small group of established actors noticed her. One of them whispered loud enough for her to hear, "She is only here because of Keanu." Another smirked and added, "Let's see how long she lasts." Their laughter cut through the music like knives. Ana's smile faded, her hands trembled slightly, and she looked down at her feet. Keanu, who was standing across the hall, saw the moment unfold. His face remained calm, but his eyes grew sharper. He excused himself from the people around him and walked directly toward Ana. When he reached her, he placed a hand lightly on her shoulder and said, "You look perfect tonight." Then, turning toward the actors who had mocked her, he smiled politely and added, "I don't think you've met one of the most hard-working people I've ever seen." His words were not loud, but they carried strength. The laughter of the group faded quickly and the smug smiles disappeared. Ana felt warmth rush into her chest. It was not only that he defended her, it was the way he did it, with quiet dignity, without anger, without raising his voice. The room felt different after that, as if respect had replaced arrogance. As the evening continued, Keanu and Ana sat together at a corner table, away from the crowd. Ana whispered, "Why do you always stay so calm? How do you never let their words cut you?" Keanu took a slow sip of his drink before answering. "Because anger gives them power. Respect takes it away. I have learned that silence, when used with kindness, speaks louder than shouting." Ana thought about his words long into the night. They reminded her of her father back home, who used to tell her that true strength was not in fighting back, but in standing tall without letting bitterness enter your heart. But Hollywood's challenges did not end at dinner parties. A few days later, during filming, Ana had a difficult scene that required deep emotion. The director grew frustrated when she could not deliver the performance on the first few takes. Voices around the set grew tense, and whispers of doubt circled again. Ana felt her confidence slipping like sand through her fingers. When the director called for a break, she walked out quietly, her eyes wet with tears. Keanu followed her outside. He found her sitting on a bench near the studio wall, her head in her hands. He sat beside her without speaking at first. Then, after a pause, he said, "Do you know how many times I've failed a scene? More than I can count. But failure is not the end. It's the beginning of truth in acting. It means you are trying to reach deeper." Ana looked at him surprised. Keanu was known as a professional who rarely showed weakness, yet here he was, admitting his own struggles. He leaned closer and added, "The camera can only see what your heart allows. Don't fight the moment, just feel it." When filming resumed, Ana tried again. This time, she let her emotions flow without fear of judgment. The scene came alive in a way that left even the director silent for a moment. When the cameras stopped rolling, the crew applauded softly. Ana felt a wave of relief and pride wash over her. She glanced at Keanu, who only gave her a small nod as if to say, "See? I told you." But just as hope began to grow stronger in her, an unexpected storm arrived. A gossip magazine published an article claiming that Keanu and Ana were pretending friendship for publicity. The article twisted their moments together, making their kindness look like manipulation. Headlines spread across social media, and once again, the whispers grew loud. Ana's phone buzzed non-stop with calls from reporters. She felt her chest tighten with panic, but Keanu, as always, remained calm. When she called him late at night, her voice breaking, he said gently, "Let them write their stories. We will live ours." Those words settled into her heart like a promise. Yet neither of them knew that the real test of their bond was about to come. Not from Hollywood, not from strangers, but from a painful truth buried in Keanu's own past. A truth that would soon surface, changing the way Ana saw him forever. The night after the gossip article spread everywhere, Ana could not sleep. She turned off her phone, but her thoughts would not rest. She kept thinking of Keanu's calm words, "We will live our story." But still, something inside her felt heavy. She had seen his kindness, his patience, and his quiet strength. Yet she had also noticed moments when his eyes carried a sadness he never spoke of. She wondered what secrets he held behind that gentle smile. A few days later, between scenes, the director announced a short break. Most of the crew left the set to grab coffee, but Ana noticed Keanu walking toward the old piano sitting in the corner of the studio. It was dusty, ignored, probably left behind from another film. Keanu sat down quietly and began to play a soft melody. The notes were slow, deep, and full of unspoken emotion. Ana stood nearby, listening, her chest tightening with a feeling she could not explain. When the song ended, she asked softly, "Where did you learn to play like that?" Keanu paused before answering. His voice was calm, but there was a shadow in it. "Someone I loved taught me." Ana did not push further, but the words stayed with her. Later that evening, as they walked to the parking lot together, she gathered the courage to ask, "Keanu, why do your eyes sometimes look so sad, even when you are smiling?" He stopped walking for a moment, looking at the ground, then lifted, his gaze toward the night sky. After a long silence, he said, "Because kindness is often born from pain." The next day, he finally opened up. They sat together outside the studio, away from cameras, away from noise. He told her about his past, the tragedies he rarely shared. He spoke of losing people he loved deeply, of nights filled with loneliness, of battles with grief that the world never saw. He described how fame could never heal those wounds, how even in a crowded room he sometimes felt completely alone. Ana listened with her heart aching. She had seen his strength, but now she saw the depth of his scars. Tears welled in her eyes, and without thinking, she reached out and held his hand. "I'm sorry you went through that," she whispered. Keanu shook his head gently. "Don't be sorry. Pain taught me how to respect life, how to treat people with gentleness. If I hadn't suffered, maybe I wouldn't have learned what truly matters." His honesty left her speechless. She had expected a story of struggle, but not one so raw. In that moment, she realized that the strength she admired in him was not natural. It was built on years of surviving heartbreak. It made her respect him even more, but fate has a way of testing people at the most vulnerable moments. A week later, the production team arranged a live promotional event for the film. Both Keanu and Ana were invited on stage in front of hundreds of fans and reporters. The lights were bright, the cameras flashed non-stop, and the questions from journalists came like arrows. Most were polite, but then one reporter stood up and asked loudly, "Keanu, is it true you are only helping Ana because you feel sorry for her?" The question was cruel, designed to spark headlines. The crowd went silent. Ana's heart sank. Her face turned pale. She wanted to speak, but before she could, Keanu leaned toward the microphone. His voice was calm, steady, but filled with emotion. "I don't feel sorry for her," he said, looking at the reporter directly. "I respect her. I admire her. She is one of the most talented, hardworking, and kind people I have ever met. If anything, she inspires me." The audience erupted in applause. Ana felt tears fill her eyes, but she held them back. It was not just his defense of her. It was the way he said it, with complete sincerity, with no hesitation. In that moment, she realized that Keanu did not protect her out of pity or duty. He truly valued her, not just as a co-star, but as a person. After the event, Ana walked with him to the backstage area. Her voice shook as she said, "Thank you for saying that. I don't think anyone has ever stood up for me like that before." Keanu gave her a soft smile. "You deserve it." But even as they shared that quiet moment, another storm was building. The same reporter who asked the question wrote an article twisting Keanu's words, suggesting there was something deeper between them. Headlines screamed about romance, scandal, and secret relationships. Once again, their kindness was turned into gossip. Ana felt trapped. She was tired of lies, tired of the constant spotlight. One evening, she called Keanu and said, "Maybe We should stop spending time together. Maybe then they'll leave us alone." The silence on the phone felt heavy. Finally, Keanu replied, "If we stop being friends because of what they say, then they win. We can't let them decide who we are." His words struck her deeply. But still, doubt lingered in her mind. She worried about dragging him into unwanted attention. She worried about ruining his peace. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Ana was walking alone near a cafe when she overheard two strangers talking about her. One said, "She doesn't belong in Hollywood. She's only standing because Keanu holds her up." The words burned into her heart. She sat inside the cafe, holding back tears, when suddenly the door opened and Keanu walked in. He had not planned to meet her there, but fate brought him at that very moment. Seeing her face, he knew what had happened. He sat across from her, his voice calm. "Ana, listen to me. You don't need me to hold you up. You stand on your own. Don't ever let their voices drown out the truth." She nodded, but her emotions spilled over and tears rolled down her cheeks. Keanu reached out, handing her a napkin, his eyes steady. "You are stronger than you believe. One day, they will see it too." Ana held his words close, but she also knew something now. She was not the only one people doubted. Behind his calm face, Keanu still carried his own wounds. And soon, a challenge would come that would test both of them together, pushing them into a moment where their friendship would either break under pressure or grow into something unshakable. The storm came sooner than either of them expected. A famous awards ceremony was approaching, one of the biggest nights in Hollywood. Keanu was invited as a presenter, and Ana was nominated for an award for her role in the film they had been working on together. It should have been a night of celebration, a moment of joy, but the atmosphere around them was heavy. Weeks of gossip and twisted headlines had built pressure. The media promised big stories about them, and reporters sharpened their questions like knives waiting to be thrown. On the night of the ceremony, the red carpet was alive with flashing lights, cheering fans, and reporters shouting names. Ana arrived in an elegant gown, her heart racing as cameras turned in her direction. Whispers moved through the crowd, some admiring, some cruel. She smiled politely, but her hands trembled slightly at her sides. Just when the noise threatened to overwhelm her, Keanu stepped out of his car and walked calmly toward her. The crowd erupted with louder cheers. Keanu, dressed in a simple black suit, looked as grounded as ever. When he reached her, he bowed his head slightly, offering his arm with a quiet smile. Ana hesitated only for a second before placing her hand on his arm. In that single gesture, the noise of the world seemed to fade. They walked the carpet together, not as a headline, but as two people who refused to let others break their bond. Inside the ceremony, tension grew. When Ana's category was announced, her heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear. The nominees' names were read, and then the winner's envelope was opened. Her name was called. The crowd applauded, but for a moment she froze in disbelief. She had won. As she stood and walked to the stage, she could feel the weight of every eye on her. Her throat tightened. She wanted to speak, but fear of judgment threatened to silence her. Then, in the front row, she saw Keanu. He nodded once, steady and reassuring. That simple look gave her the courage she needed. She stepped to the microphone and began slowly. "I want to thank my family back home, who believed in me when I had nothing. I want to thank the team who trusted me. And I want to thank a friend who has shown me what respect and kindness truly mean." She glanced at Keanu. "Thank you for reminding me that humility is strength." The audience rose in applause. It was not only for her acting, but for the honesty in her words. People felt the sincerity, and for once, the room was filled with admiration instead of whispers. But outside the ceremony, the media twisted the story again. Headlines the next morning focused less on her win and more on her mention of Keanu. Ana thanks Keanu in emotional speech. Romance rumors grow stronger. Once again, their kindness was turned into scandal. Ana felt torn. Her victory, a dream she had chased since her childhood in Cuba, was overshadowed by gossip. When she met Keanu the next day, her voice broke as she said, "I wish they would just see us for who we are, not for what they want to write." Keanu listened quietly, then said, "We can't control their stories, but we can control how we live ours. People may twist our truth, but in time, truth always stands." His calm words gave her comfort, but fate was not finished testing them. Weeks later, the film they had worked on together premiered. The theater was full, the lights dimmed, and the audience watched their performances on the big screen. Ana gave everything in her role, and her emotions touched the audience deeply. When the credits rolled, the crowd gave a standing ovation. People clapped and cheered. Ana looked around, tears in her eyes. She had doubted herself so many times, but now she saw the audience moved by her work. And when she turned, she saw Keanu clapping with a proud smile. In that moment, all the pain, all the gossip, all the doubt seemed worth it. Yet even in celebration, darkness found its way back. After the premiere, a well-known critic published a harsh review. Instead of judging the film, he focused on Ana personally. He called her a shadow of Keanu Reeves and claimed she would fade without his support. The words cut deeper than any rumor. Ana read the review late at night, tears spilling onto the page. She felt her confidence crumble again. She thought of giving up, of walking away from Hollywood. The next morning, she confessed her feelings to Keanu. "Maybe they're right," she whispered. "Maybe I can't stand without you." Keanu looked at her with gentle eyes, but his voice was firm. "Ana, you stood long before I met you. You carried your dreams from Cuba to this place. You worked, you struggled, you refused to give up. Don't let anyone erase your story. You don't need me to shine. You already shine." His words pierced through her pain, but more than that, they lit a fire inside her. For the first time, she began to believe that her strength was not borrowed. It was her own. Still, a new challenge was waiting. The producer announced a press tour overseas, and both Keanu and Ana were invited. Traveling together meant facing the world outside America, facing questions in new languages, and standing in front of audiences who had already read the gossip. Ana was nervous, but Keanu reminded her, "The world is bigger than the rumors. You'll see." As they boarded the plane, she wondered if she was ready for what lay ahead. She didn't know that during that tour, an unexpected moment would bring them closer than ever, one that would silence doubters in a way no words ever could. The overseas tour began in Europe. The first stop was London, a city alive with history, and buzzing with excitement for the premiere of their film. When Keanu and Ana stepped off the plane, cameras flashed, fans screamed, and reporters rushed forward with microphones. It was overwhelming, but Keanu walked calmly, greeting the crowd with a small smile while Ana stayed close, taking strength from his quiet presence. The London premiere was held in a grand old theater, its red carpets rolled out, its lights shining like stars. Fans lined the streets holding posters and shouting names. As Keanu and Ana arrived, they waved politely, moving slowly through the crowd. The energy was electric, but once again, whispers followed them. Reporters leaned in with sharp questions. "Are you more than friends? Is this a romance or a partnership?" Both of them ignored the noise, focusing instead on the fans who had come with genuine love for their work. Inside, the premiere was magical. The audience laughed, cried, and clapped at the right moments, and when the film ended, people stood to applaud. Ana felt her heart swell. She could see pride in the eyes of strangers, and for the first time in weeks she believed their voices mattered more than gossip. After the screening, the cast was invited on stage for a question and answer session. The host asked about the challenges of filming, the lessons they had learned, and their favorite moments on set. When it was Anna's turn, she spoke softly but firmly. "I learned that respect is the most powerful thing you can bring to a set. I was lucky to work with someone who reminded me of that every day." She looked toward Keanu, and the audience clapped warmly. The tour continued from London to Paris. The City of Lights welcomed them with even greater crowds. At one event, fans gathered outside in the rain, waiting for hours just to catch a glimpse of them. When Keanu saw this, he stepped outside with an umbrella, walking along the line, greeting people, shaking hands, and taking pictures. The fans were stunned. Many had tears in their eyes. Ana watched from the doorway, her heart full. She realized again that his kindness was not an act, it was who he truly was. But the most unforgettable moment came in Madrid. It was a large press conference, packed with reporters from around the world. The questions began smoothly, but soon one reporter stood and asked, "Keanu, are you aware that many people believe Ana owes her success to you? Do you think she could have made it without your support?" The room fell silent. Anna's chest tightened. Her face burned with shame. It was the same doubt she had battled again and again, now spoken loudly in front of hundreds of people. She lowered her head, unable to meet anyone's eyes, but before she could speak, Keanu leaned toward the microphone. His voice was calm but strong, echoing through the room. Ana owes her success to herself, to her courage, her talent, and her resilience. I've seen her work harder than anyone, and I've seen her face challenges that would break most people. She doesn't stand because of me. She stands because she has the strength to rise, no matter how many times people try to push her down. The audience erupted in applause. Some reporters stood, clapping. Their faces moved. Ana felt her eyes blur with tears. In that moment, the world was no longer doubting her. It was witnessing the truth. When the conference ended, Ana walked out quietly, still shaken by the question but overwhelmed by Keanu's words. She found him standing in a quiet hallway, away from the noise. Her voice trembled as she said, "Why do you always defend me when the world tries to bring me down?" Keanu looked at her with gentle eyes. "Because I know what it feels like, to be doubted. I know what it's like to carry scars the world doesn't see. No one stood up for me when I needed it. But I can stand up for you." Ana could not hold back her tears anymore. She whispered, "You don't just stand up for me. You make me believe in myself again." The tour went on, and everywhere they traveled, Rome, Berlin, Tokyo, people began to see their bond differently, no longer as gossip, but as something pure. Interviews shifted tone, focusing on their shared respect and kindness. Fans began calling them the duo that brought humility back to Hollywood. But even as the outside world softened, Anna's biggest challenge lay within herself. Late one night in Tokyo, after a long day of events, she admitted her deepest fear to Keanu. They were sitting on a hotel balcony, the city lights glowing below. "Sometimes," she said softly, "I'm afraid I will lose myself trying to live up to all of this. The pressure, the judgment, it's so heavy." Keanu listened in silence for a long time before replying. "Then don't live up to it. Live true to yourself. The world doesn't need perfection from you, Ana. It needs your truth. And that's already enough." Those words sank deep into her heart, but she also knew that their journey was not yet over. Ahead of them waited the final challenge, the moment that would test everything they had built, a moment that would decide whether their bond could endure beyond the storms of fame. After the tour, both Keanu and Ana returned to Los Angeles, but the noise of Hollywood did not rest. The media continued to speculate, reporters kept chasing, and critics searched for ways to twist their friendship into scandal. Yet something had changed. Fans across the world had begun to see the truth, not just through headlines but through the way Keanu and Ana carried themselves, with respect, with humility, and with quiet strength. But the final test of their bond came one night during a charity gala. It was an event meant to raise money for children in need, a cause Keanu often supported quietly without cameras. He invited Ana to attend, telling her, "This is not about us, it's about giving back." She agreed, happy to stand by his side. The Gala Hall was full of powerful people, dressed in glittering clothes, speaking loudly about wealth and success. Among them, whispers again began to circle. Some guests looked at Ana with dismissive eyes. One even muttered, "She is just Keanu's shadow." The words stung, but she remained silent. Then, during the dinner, the host asked Keanu to speak. He walked to the stage, simple in his manner without notes or grand gestures. His voice carried softly but clearly. "We are here tonight not to shine as individuals, but to give light to others. Fame and fortune mean nothing if they are not used to lift those who cannot stand. I have seen pain. I have seen loneliness. And I have learned that the smallest act of kindness can heal wounds deeper than we imagine." The room grew silent. People leaned forward, listening closely. Keanu continued, "And I am not speaking only about myself. I have watched a young actress beside me show the same spirit. She came from far away, carrying dreams heavier than most could bear. She has faced doubt, insult, and judgment. But through it all, she has remained humble, strong, and kind. I believe that is true success." He looked toward Ana. Her eyes filled with tears as the audience turned to her, clapping warmly. For the first time in her journey, she did not feel like a shadow. She felt seen for who she was. After the event, as they walked outside into the cool night, Ana finally let her emotions spill. "You always protect me, but tonight, you gave me back my own voice. I don't know how to thank you." Keanu smiled gently. "You don't have to thank me. You've always had that voice. I just reminded you to use it." Ana looked at him, her heart heavy with gratitude. "Do you ever regret being so open, so kind, even when people twist it?" He shook his head slowly. "Kindness is never wasted. It always finds its way back, even if the world doesn't see it right away." In the months that followed, their paths continued. More films, more events, more challenges, but through it all, their bond remained steady. Sometimes they laughed, together at simple things like burnt coffee on set. Sometimes they stood side by side through storms of gossip, and sometimes they sat in silence, just two souls who had found comfort in understanding each other's scars. The world eventually grew quieter. The rumors faded, replaced by stories of their work and the way they inspired others. Young actors began to speak of them as examples of humility. Fans around the world shared clips of their moments, calling them reminders that kindness still existed in a world often filled with pride. One evening, months later, Ana visited Keanu at his home. They sat on his porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in soft colors. After a long silence, Ana whispered, "You know, people may never stop talking. They may always twist our story." Keanu nodded. "Yes, but we know the truth, and the truth is simple. We chose respect over pride, kindness over cruelty, and friendship over fear. That is enough." Ana smiled through her tears. "You changed the way I see myself. You showed me that I don't need to be perfect, I just need to be real." Keanu looked at her with that familiar calmness and said, "And you reminded me that, even after pain, hope can be found again." The sun dipped lower, the light fading into gentle shadows. Two people sat quietly, not as celebrities, not as gossip, but as human beings who had walked through storms together and found strength in humility. Their story did not end with a grand announcement or a dramatic twist. It ended in something far more powerful: quiet, steady respect and kindness that continued to inspire others. Because in the end, it was never about Hollywood lights or headlines. It was about showing the world that true strength lies in humility, and true greatness lies in kindness.